He protected my most precious treasure, so I chose him. The air was thick with the hum of machinery and the chatter of humans going about their daily tasks, but Lyra paid little attention to it. She was immersed in her work, crouched beside a transparent containment unit that pulsed faintly with a soft, blue light. Inside floated her most precious treasure, Illumina, a small alien creature whose gentle hum could power entire machines with its emotions. Its translucent body shimmered like liquid glass, reacting to every change in her mood. Lyra had discovered the Lumina years ago, deep in the forests of Lyra Prime's northern hemisphere. No one had believed her at first, dismissing her stories as fanciful fantasies born of isolation and obsession. But she had persevered, earning the trust of the colony's scientific council, and eventually gaining the rare permission to study the Lumina in a secure facility. Every detail of its behavior fascinated her, the way it reacted to music, the subtle shifts in color when it felt comfort or fear, the way its energy could light a room without a single wire. It was not just a subject of study. It was a companion, a partner, and a treasure she would defend at any cost. Today, however, a quiet unease lingered in her chest. Lyra had sensed disturbances in the colony's perimeter sensors for the past few days, subtle anomalies she could not explain. She had dismissed them at first, thinking the new monitoring drones were simply recalibrating. But this morning, a sharp alert flashed across her console. Her heart skipped. The raiders, the ones she had feared since her first days on Lyra Prime, were near. The colony had faced raiders before, groups of mercenaries who tracked the energy signatures of rare resources across star systems. They were ruthless, driven by greed and willing to destroy anything that stood in their way. And now they had discovered the Lumina. Lyra knew that if they breached the lab, her research and the creature itself would be lost. Panic surged through her for a moment, but she forced herself to focus. She quickly activated the lab's defense protocols, but her hands trembled as she tried to configure the energy barriers. It was more than she could handle alone. That was when she noticed him. Kale. He stood at the entrance to the lab, his cybernetic frame catching the sunlight, his movements precise and confident. Kale was more than just a human. He was a guardian, enhanced with technology that made him stronger, faster, and nearly impossible to surprise. Assigned to protect high-value targets across the colony, Kale had a reputation that even the most hardened mercenaries feared. And today he was here. "Lyra," he said, his voice calm and steady, cutting through the chaos. "Step back, I'll handle this." Lyra hesitated. She was used to relying on herself, to solving every problem through logic and science. But Kale's presence was different. There was an aura of certainty about him, a quiet strength that made her feel safer instantly. She nodded, taking a step back as Kale moved toward the lab's entrance. Outside, the first wave of raiders arrived. They descended from sleek black ships, landing near the perimeter with a roar of engines and the sharp hiss of energy weapons. Kale didn't flinch. His sensors glowed faintly as he assessed the attackers, calculating their numbers, their weapons, their possible strategies. Then he moved. The battle was a blur of motion and light. Kale's cybernetic enhancements allowed him to move faster than any human could, deflecting energy blasts and disabling raiders with precision strikes. His hands, reinforced with nanotech alloys, could intercept weapons and dismantle machinery almost effortlessly. Lyra watched, her fear giving way to awe. Each time a raider attempted to breach the lab, Kale was there, intercepting them before they could reach the Lumina. Lyra's mind raced. She realized that her treasure was safe, not because of her inventions, but because of him. He wasn't just protecting the creature. He was protecting her, her work, and everything she had built. And in that realization, a strange warmth spread through her chest. She had always valued intelligence and ingenuity, but there was something profoundly human about Kale's protection. It was instinct, courage, and commitment combined in a way she had never seen before. The raiders pressed harder, their numbers growing, their tactics more aggressive. Kale's sensors detected them before they even appeared on the surface. He moved like a shadow, striking from unexpected angles, using the terrain and the colony's structures to his advantage. Lyra couldn't help but marvel at his skill. Every time she thought a raider might reach the lab, Kale was there, swift, precise, unstoppable. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. Time seemed to blur in the intensity of the battle. Lyra worked tirelessly at her console, maintaining the energy barriers, tweaking the Lumina's containment fields, and sending alerts to the colony's defense network. She was exhausted, but Kale never wavered. He stood at the intersection of the lab's entrance, a living wall between the raiders and her most precious treasure. Finally, as the twin suns began to set, casting long shadows across the colony, the raiders retreated. Their ships lifted off in a cloud of dust and fire, vanishing into the sky. Lyra's knees weakened, and she sank to the floor, relief washing over her. The Lumina floated serenely in its containment unit, its soft hum a comforting reminder that it had survived. Kale stepped back into the lab, his movements less urgent now, but still alert. He scanned the room, ensuring there were no lingering threats. Then he turned to Lyra. "It's safe," he said simply. "For now." Lyra looked at him, her mind struggling to find words. She had been trained to express gratitude in precise terms, but nothing seemed sufficient. "Thank you," she whispered. It felt inadequate, almost childish, but it carried the weight of every emotion she felt in that moment. Kale nodded, as if he understood exactly what she meant without needing elaboration. He returned to his position near the containment unit, standing guard as the Lumina pulsed softly, its colors shifting in response to the calm after the storm. Lyra sat beside it, watching the creature and the man who had protected it. She realized with a sudden clarity that this bond between human, machine, and alien was something extraordinary. The night fell, quiet and still, but Lyra could not sleep. She remained by the containment unit, watching Kale maintain his vigil. She observed the subtle ways he adjusted the security systems, the small gestures that showed attention to every detail, the way he never allowed his guard to drop. She had spent years protecting the Lumina with her intellect and inventions, but Kale's presence had shown her a new dimension of security, one built on courage, instinct, and unwavering dedication. As she sat there, Lyra began to understand something profound. Protection was not merely about technology or strategy. It was about heart, determination, and the willingness to stand firm even when the odds seemed impossible. Kale embodied all of that. And for the first time, she considered that choosing someone to protect her treasure might involve more than logic. It could involve trust, admiration, and perhaps even something deeper. Hours later, when the colony's emergency systems finally powered down and the last patrols returned, Lyra allowed herself a small smile. The Lumina was safe, the raiders had been repelled, and she had discovered something she had not anticipated. A protector whose courage and skill inspired not just security, but a profound sense of hope. She looked at Kale again, his figure silhouetted against the soft glow of the containment unit. He did not speak, but his presence said more than words ever could. In that moment, Lyra realized that she had found more than a guardian for her treasure. She had found someone who could stand beside her in the face of danger, unwavering and resolute. And though the future remained uncertain, Lyra knew one thing with absolute certainty. No matter what threats the universe might bring, Kale would be there, protecting her most precious treasure. And in protecting the Lumina, he had also protected something even more important, her trust, her hope, and perhaps in time her heart. The night deepened, stars sparkling over Lyra Prime, but inside the lab a quiet warmth lingered. The battle was over, but the bond between human and guardian had only begun. Lyra sat beside her treasure, watching Kale, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and dangerous, but with him there, she believed that even the greatest threats could be met and overcome. And so, in the golden glow of the lab, amid the hum of the Lumina, Lyra's heart quietly whispered a truth she had yet to speak aloud. Some treasures were meant to be protected not just by skill or science, but by courage, loyalty, and the steadfast presence of someone who would. Never let them fall. The morning sun rose slowly over Lyra Prime, spilling pale light across the colony. The lab was quiet now, but the tension from the previous day lingered in the air like a stubborn shadow. Lyra moved among the workstations, checking readings and adjusting the containment fields around the Lumina. Its soft glow pulsed rhythmically, as though sensing the unease in the lab. Kale sat nearby, scanning the colony's perimeter feeds and security logs. His cybernetic eyes reflected streams of data as he analyzed potential threats. Lyra watched him for a moment, noticing how focused he was, how every movement carried precision and intent. She had spent countless hours observing the Lumina, studying its patterns and energy flows, but watching Kale in action revealed a kind of mastery she had never seen before. "Are we safe?" she asked softly, almost afraid to break the calm. "For now," Kale replied without looking up. "The raiders retreated, but they will likely return. They know the value of the Lumina. We can't assume they've given up." Lyra nodded. She had feared this, but hearing it aloud made the danger more real. She realized that her intellect and inventions alone would not be enough to protect the Lumina. She needed Kale, not just for his strength, but for his judgment, his ability to anticipate threats, and his unwavering focus. Over the next few days, Lyra and Kale worked together to reinforce the lab's defenses. She adjusted energy barriers, strengthened containment fields, and created alarms to detect even the slightest disturbance. Kale assisted with the integration of security drones, programming them to follow his tactical commands. It was a delicate balance. Too many defenses could stress the Lumina, while too few would leave it vulnerable. Through this work, Lyra began to notice the subtle ways Kale showed his care. When she moved near the containment unit, he would position himself slightly between her and the doors, a protective instinct she had never seen him display for anyone else. When a drone malfunctioned, Kale would calmly repair it, his hands steady even under pressure, as if every action mattered not just for security, but for her safety. During long evenings, while Lyra ran simulations and recalibrated systems, Kale would sit nearby, monitoring energy levels and occasionally offering suggestions. "If you redirect 20% of the containment energy to the outer barriers, it will reduce stress on the Lumina," he said one night. His tone was neutral, professional, but Lyra sensed an underlying care. He was thinking not just about the creature, but about her well-being as well. One evening, after hours of work, Lyra finally allowed herself to speak. "Kale, why do you care so much?" Her voice was quiet, almost afraid of the answer. Kale looked at her, his expression calm but thoughtful. "Because it matters to you. Protecting the Lumina isn't just about guarding a creature. It's about keeping what you value safe. That's important." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had expected him to give a tactical or mechanical answer, but instead, he had acknowledged her feelings, her fears, and her hope. She realized then that Kale's protection went beyond duty. It was rooted in understanding, respect, and something she couldn't quite name. The raiders did return, as Kale had predicted, but this time, Lyra was prepared. The colony's outer defenses activated before their ships landed, and Kale led the response with calm authority. He directed drones to intercept the raiders, anticipated their movements, and neutralized threats before they could reach the lab. Lyra worked alongside him, using the Lumina's energy in clever ways to reinforce shields and confuse the attackers. For hours, they fought together in perfect coordination. Lyra marveled at Kale's efficiency. Every strike, every maneuver was calculated, precise, and effective. He moved like a force of nature, yet his eyes always returned to the lab, ensuring the Lumina remained safe. She realized that she had never felt so secure in the presence of another being. Kale's strength was not just physical. It was a combination of courage, intelligence, and unwavering commitment. During a lull in the battle, Lyra noticed a young raider sneaking toward the lab from an unexpected angle. Without thinking, she shouted a warning, but Kale was already there. In a fluid motion, he intercepted the attacker, disarming him and holding him at bay without harming him. The precision and control were breathtaking. Lyra felt a surge of admiration and gratitude. He was not only protecting the Lumina, but ensuring that the battle caused no unnecessary harm. When the raiders finally retreated again, the colony was shaken but intact. Lyra and Kale returned to the lab, exhausted but triumphant. She leaned against the containment unit, watching the Lumina pulse softly. "It's still here," she whispered, her voice a mixture of relief and awe. Kale nodded. "It will stay that way as long as we're careful." In the days that followed, Lyra noticed subtle changes in her feelings toward Kale. She had always respected him, admired his skill and dedication, but now she realized that her gratitude had deepened into something more profound. She found herself seeking his guidance, valuing his presence, and quietly hoping he would be near. One afternoon, while testing a new energy shield design, Lyra nearly triggered a containment breach. Kale's reflexes saved the Lumina in an instant, his hands steady, his mind focused. The close call left her shaken, and she realized how fragile her treasure was and how vital Kale's protection had become. She looked at him, truly seeing him for the first time, not just as a guardian, but as someone she could trust with everything she held dear. The Lumina, sensing her emotions, glowed brighter, its light shifting through soft hues of blue and green. Lyra smiled faintly, marveling at the connection she felt, not just with the creature but with Kale, who had stood beside her through danger and uncertainty. That night, Lyra and Kale stayed in the lab longer than usual. The colony was quiet, the stars visible through the transparent dome ceiling. Lyra hesitated before speaking, her voice barely above a whisper. "Kale, why do you keep coming back for me, even when it's dangerous?" Kale looked at her, his expression calm, almost unreadable. "Because it's what I am meant to do. Protecting you and the Lumina, that is my purpose, and I intend to fulfill it." Lyra felt her chest tighten. Purpose, dedication, and loyalty. These were qualities she had admired in stories of heroes and explorers, but she had never experienced them firsthand until now. She realized that Kale's protection was not just about skill or orders. It was about commitment, trust, and a willingness to face danger for someone else. Over the following week, the colony worked tirelessly to strengthen defenses and prepare for any future threats. Lyra and Kale spent hours together, combining science and strategy in ways that fascinated her. She learned to anticipate his movements, to understand his thought process, and to work alongside him seamlessly. Their bond grew stronger, built on shared experiences, mutual respect, and the quiet understanding that they were united by a common purpose. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned shades of pink and violet, Lyra watched Kale monitor the perimeter. She realized that she no longer saw him merely as a guardian. He had become a presence she relied upon, a constant she had come to value more than she had expected. The thought surprised her. She had always been independent, wary of depending on anyone, but now she welcomed his vigilance, his strength, and his unwavering focus. "Kale," she said softly, stepping closer, "I don't think I could do this without you." He turned to her, his expression calm but not indifferent. "You won't have to, not as long as I am here." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mix of relief, admiration, and something she had not named. She watched him for a moment, realizing that choosing someone to protect her treasure might mean choosing someone to trust, to rely on, and perhaps even to care for deeply. As night fell over Lyra Prime, the Lumina pulsed gently in its containment unit, a symbol of hope and endurance. Lyra sat beside it, her thoughts heavy with the knowledge that the universe was vast and dangerous, but she was not alone. Kale's presence beside her brought a sense of security and possibility that she had never felt before. Together, they had faced danger, repelled raiders, and protected what was most precious. And though challenges would come again, Lyra knew they could meet them as a team. For the first time since discovering the Lumina, Lyra allowed herself a quiet sense of peace. The bond between human, guardian, and creature was growing stronger, a connection forged in fire, trust, and shared courage. And deep inside, she knew that this bond was only the beginning of something extraordinary, something that went beyond protection and duty, reaching into the realm of trust, respect, and perhaps even something more profound. And so, under the twin moons of Lyra Prime, Lyra and Kale stood vigilant, watching over the Lumina and the colony. The universe was unpredictable and dangerous, but together they faced it with courage and determination. And in the quiet moments between alarms and battles, Lyra realized that her most precious treasure had brought her more than discovery or knowledge. It had brought her Kale, her protector, her partner, and the beginning of a bond that would endure through any challenge the stars could send. The colony was slowly recovering from the second attack, but Lyra knew the danger was far from over. Kale had been right. The raiders would not give up easily. The Lumina was too valuable, too unique to be ignored. Lyra's thoughts were filled with one urgent idea. She needed to move the creature to a place where it could be safe, hidden from anyone who might seek to capture it. "We need to take it off planet," she said one morning, her voice steady but urgent. She had been preparing plans for weeks, designing a containment pod capable of traveling through space without risking the Lumina's health. "There's a sanctuary beyond the known systems. It's uncharted, far from the raiders. The Lumina can thrive there." Kale studied her for a long moment. His cybernetic eyes flickered with data as he ran calculations, simulating risks, energy requirements, and possible threats. "It will be dangerous," he said finally. Traveling through uncharted space carries risks beyond what we have encountered here. Energy storms, rogue asteroids, system malfunctions, any of these could harm the Lumina. Lyra nodded. I know, but staying here is even more dangerous. The raiders will return, and next time they might succeed. Kale's expression softened slightly, a rare display of emotion for someone so reserved. Then we'll do it together. I will protect the Lumina, and I will protect you. The next several days were a blur of preparation. Lyra worked tirelessly on the containment pod, fine-tuning energy fields, reinforcing structural integrity, and creating systems that could regulate the Lumina's energy output during long periods of travel. Kale assisted her, not just with security measures, but by testing calculations, predicting potential hazards, and offering practical solutions. As they worked, Lyra found herself observing Kale in ways she hadn't before. She noticed how he moved, how every action carried a careful deliberation, how his presence made her feel calm even when she feared the unknown. She realized that he was more than just a protector. He was a partner in every sense. He anticipated her needs, complemented her skills, and provided a strength that no technology alone could replicate. When the containment pod was finally ready, Lyra and Kale stood before it in the lab, the Lumina floating gently inside. Its soft hum seemed to resonate with the tension in the room. Lyra took a deep breath. Are you ready? Kale's gaze met hers. I've never been more ready. The journey began smoothly. Lyra navigated the ship through Lyra Prime's atmosphere, and Kale monitored the systems, adjusting for minor turbulence and anomalies in real time. For a while, the hum of the Lumina and the soft beeping of the ship's controls were the only sounds. Lyra allowed herself a small sense of relief. So far, so good. But uncharted space was unpredictable. On the third day, they encountered an asteroid field larger than any mapping system had predicted. Massive rocks drifted through space, some glowing faintly with residual energy from cosmic radiation. Lyra's hands gripped the controls tightly as she tried to navigate between the obstacles. Kale's voice was calm but commanding. Increase lateral thrusters by 15%. Slow forward momentum. Wait for the large cluster to clear. Lyra followed his instructions precisely. His guidance was perfect, each command based on calculations she could not have performed alone. Together they maneuvered through the dangerous field, the ship twisting and turning with delicate precision. At one point, a massive rock struck the side of the ship, shaking the hull. The Lumina pulsed anxiously, but Kale immediately adjusted the containment fields to stabilize it, his movements quick and exact. After hours of tense navigation, they emerged from the asteroid field unscathed. Lyra exhaled, her body trembling with relief. She looked at Kale, whose calm presence had never wavered. In that moment, she realized how deeply she relied on him, not just for physical protection, but for confidence and reassurance. As they continued through uncharted space, natural hazards tested them again and again. Energy storms crackled across their path, solar flares threatened to overload the ship's systems, and rogue gravitational fields pulled them off course. Each time, Kale remained steadfast, his cybernetic enhancements giving him the ability to react instantly, to calculate risk and act with flawless precision. Lyra's scientific expertise complemented his skill, and together they found solutions that neither could have accomplished alone. Through the long nights, as the stars shifted outside the ship's observation windows, Lyra and Kale shared quiet moments. They spoke little, but each conversation, each glance, conveyed trust and understanding. Kale would sometimes adjust the ship's systems while Lyra rested, ensuring that every measure was in place to protect the Lumina. She began to feel that his vigilance was not just about duty. It was a genuine concern, a silent promise that he would stand beside her no matter the danger. One evening, as the ship drifted near the edge of a luminous nebula, Lyra spoke softly, breaking the silence. Kale, I don't know how I would have made it this far without you. Kale paused, his hands hovering over the control panel. You would have managed, he replied, his voice calm. But I am here to ensure you don't have to face it alone. That is my purpose. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the ship systems. His words, simple as they were, carried a weight of trust and commitment she had never experienced. She realized that protecting the Lumina was more than just a mission for him. It was a choice, made every moment, every second to keep her treasure safe. And in protecting it, he had also protected her peace, her hope, and her heart. The final challenge came unexpectedly. A massive energy storm, far larger than any simulation had predicted, engulfed their path. Lightning-like tendrils of pure energy lanced through space, threatening to tear the ship apart. Lyra gripped the controls, her mind racing. The containment fields, they might fail. Kale's voice was steady. "Trust me, focus on the Lumina, I'll handle the rest." The next hours were a blur of light, sound, and rapid decision-making. Kale moved with flawless precision, adjusting shields, rerouting power, and protecting the ship from the storm's destructive force. Lyra monitored the Lumina, using every ounce of her skill to maintain stability within the pod. At one point, a surge of energy struck the ship, shaking it violently. The Lumina pulsed erratically, but Kale's quick response stabilized it instantly. When the storm finally passed, silence filled the ship. Lyra's body was drained, but relief washed over her. The Lumina floated calmly again, its glow gentle and steady. She turned to Kale, who stood at the observation console, his expression calm, almost unreadable, but she could sense the intensity of effort behind it. "You saved it," she whispered. Kale met her gaze. "We saved it." Together, for the first time, Lyra realized the depth of their partnership. They were not just scientist and guardian, they were a team bound by trust, courage, and shared purpose. And as she looked at him, she felt a stirring in her heart, a recognition that her admiration and gratitude had grown into something more profound. As they approached the coordinates of the hidden sanctuary, a small moon orbiting a distant gas giant, Lyra felt a cautious excitement. The moon was remote, its environment perfectly suited for the Lumina to thrive. She imagined the creature exploring its new home, free from danger, and she realized that this journey had changed her as much as it had changed the Lumina. She had discovered courage, resilience, and the power of trust, and she had discovered something about Kale that went beyond duty. When they finally landed, Kale secured the containment pod and assisted Lyra in carefully transferring the Lumina to the sanctuary's protective enclosure. The creature pulsed with contentment, its glow brighter than ever. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. The journey had been perilous, but the reward was worth every risk. Kale watched the Lumina with quiet attention, making sure every system functioned correctly. Lyra approached him, her chest tight with emotion she could no longer contain. "Kale, I chose to bring the Lumina here, but I realize I've also chosen you." Kale turned to her, his expression calm, but she could see something in his eyes, a quiet acknowledgement, a recognition that this choice meant more than words could express. "I will always protect what you value most," he said softly, "and that includes you." Lyra felt a surge of gratitude, trust, and a warmth that reached far beyond the Lumina's glow. In that moment, she understood that true protection was not just about strength or skill. It was about courage, dedication, and the willingness to stand by someone even in the face of impossible odds. Kale embodied all of that, and in choosing him, she had found a protector, a partner, and something far more precious than she had imagined. The stars sparkled above the sanctuary, distant and cold, but inside the enclosure, warmth and life thrived. The Lumina pulsed gently, a living symbol of hope and endurance. Lyra and Kale stood together, looking at it, knowing that the universe was vast, unpredictable, and dangerous, yet they were ready to face it as one. For Lyra, this journey had been more than a mission to protect a rare creature. It had been a journey to discover courage, trust, and the extraordinary bond between two beings facing the unknown together. And as she stood beside Kale, she realized that this bond was only the beginning, a connection that would endure through whatever challenges the stars could bring. The hidden sanctuary was everything Lyra had hoped for. The small moon orbited a distant gas giant, its surface covered with lush forests, crystalline rivers, and soft, glowing flora that seemed to pulse in harmony with the Lumina's energy. The containment pod had been carefully relocated to a secure dome, and Lyra watched the creature float calmly inside, its gentle hum filling the quiet space. For the first time since discovering it, she felt a sense of peace. Kale stood beside her, scanning the perimeter and monitoring the sanctuary's defensive systems. Even in this remote location, he did not lower his guard. Lyra admired his unwavering focus, the quiet determination that radiated from him. She had come to understand that his protection went beyond duty. It was instinctive, rooted in loyalty, courage, and something profoundly human. The tranquility was short-lived. Alarms suddenly blared through the sanctuary, piercing the calm like a blade. Lyra's heart leapt into her throat. "Raiders?" she asked, already knowing the answer. Kale's cybernetic eyes glowed as he analyzed the threat. "Yes, they tracked us, they followed us here. This is the final assault." Lyra felt a surge of fear, but she quickly pushed it aside. She had prepared for this moment, fortified the sanctuary's shields, and relied on Kale's vigilance. She knew that panic would only make things worse. The raiders descended in sleek black ships, firing energy beams that struck the sanctuary's outer shields. The ground shook as the attackers landed, spreading out and attempting to breach the dome. Kale immediately took command, coordinating defensive drones, reinforcing the energy shields, and preparing for direct combat. Lyra worked alongside him, monitoring the Lumina's energy output and ensuring the containment fields remained stable. The creature's glow shifted nervously, reflecting the tension in the air. Lyra reached out to it, whispering soothing words. The Lumina pulsed brighter, responding to her calm, steady presence. She realized then that their bond was not just physical safety, it was trust, understanding, and care. Kale moved like a force of nature. His cybernetic enhancements allowed him to dodge attacks, intercept raiders, and strike with precision. Lyra watched as he dismantled weapons, redirected enemy fire, and ensured that no harm came to the sanctuary or the Lumina. Each movement was calculated yet instinctive, a combination of machine efficiency and human courage. The raiders pressed harder, their desperation evident. They knew that capturing the Lumina would bring them immense wealth and power. Lyra's heart pounded as they breached the outer perimeter, but Kale met them head-on. He moved with such speed and precision that it seemed impossible for anyone to match him. Each time a raider aimed for the dome, Kale was there, intercepting, neutralizing, and protecting everything Lyra had worked for. At one point, a group of raiders attempted a direct assault on the containment pod. Lyra's instincts screamed at her to intervene, but Kale was already there, shielding the pod with his own body, deflecting energy blasts, and using his strength to push attackers away. Lyra marveled at his courage. He was not just protecting the Lumina, he was willing to put himself in danger for her, for the creature, for everything she valued. During a brief lull in the attack, Lyra caught her breath and looked at Kale. I can't imagine facing this without you," she admitted, her voice trembling with emotion. Kale met her gaze, his expression calm but intense. "You won't have to, not now, not ever. I will protect what you value most always." The raiders regrouped for a final assault, bringing with them advanced weaponry capable of breaching the sanctuary's shields. Lyra and Kale knew this would be the ultimate test. Lyra focused on stabilizing the Lumina, while Kale prepared to confront the attackers directly. The battle that followed was intense. Energy beams scorched the ground, drones engaged in rapid combat, and the sanctuary shook under the force of the assault. Kale moved with unmatched skill, intercepting attacks, disabling enemy weapons, and coordinating defensive systems. Lyra worked tirelessly, monitoring the Lumina and ensuring the containment fields remained stable despite the chaos. At a critical moment, one of the raiders fired a powerful blast directly at the containment pod. Time seemed to slow as Lyra reacted, but Kale was faster. He launched himself in front of the pod, using his enhanced body to absorb the impact. The force threw him back, and the raiders advanced, thinking victory was at hand. Lyra's heart raced, but she refused to panic. She activated a surge of the Lumina's energy, channeling it through the sanctuary's shields. A brilliant wave of light erupted, knocking the raiders back and stabilizing the pod. The Lumina pulsed brightly, as though acknowledging Kale's bravery and her quick thinking. Kale rose to his feet, uninjured but tense, his eyes scanning the battlefield. He moved with determination, intercepting any remaining attackers and ensuring no further harm could come to the sanctuary. Lyra watched in awe as he protected not only the Lumina but her dreams, her work, and the fragile sense of hope they had built together. When the last raider ship retreated, silence fell over the sanctuary. The ground was scarred, some equipment damaged, but the Lumina remained unharmed, glowing softly in its containment pod. Lyra's chest ached with relief and admiration. She turned to Kale, who stood vigilant as ever, scanning the perimeter for any hidden threats. "You saved everything," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "Not just the Lumina, but me, you saved me too." Kale's expression softened slightly, and for the first time his mechanical calm gave way to something warmer. "I will always protect what you hold dear. That includes you." Lyra felt a warmth that went beyond gratitude. She realized then that her choice had not been about convenience or duty. It had been about trust, courage, and the bond they had forged through shared danger and determination. She stepped closer, placing a hand on his arm. "I choose you, Kale, not just as a protector, but as someone I trust, someone I want by my side." Kale's eyes met hers, steady and unwavering. "And I choose you," he said softly. "We face the universe together." The lumina pulsed brightly, as if celebrating the moment. Its energy spread gently through the sanctuary, lighting the dome with soft colors. Lyra smiled, realizing that the journey had given her more than safety for her treasure. It had given her a protector, a partner, and the knowledge that she was never truly alone. In the following days, Lyra and Kale worked together to repair the sanctuary fully, ensuring that it would withstand any future threats. They tested new energy barriers, reinforced the dome, and created advanced surveillance systems. The Lumina thrived, its energy harmonizing with the sanctuary, and Lyra felt a sense of accomplishment unlike any she had experienced before. Kale remained by her side, vigilant yet patient, his presence a constant reassurance. Lyra found herself studying him in quiet moments, noticing how he moved, how he calculated risks, and how his dedication extended beyond duty to a genuine concern for her well-being. She realized that protection was not just physical. It was emotional, mental, and deeply human. One night, as the twin moons of the gas giant cast silver light across the sanctuary, Lyra and Kale stood together outside the dome. The lumina floated inside, glowing softly, a beacon of hope and life. Lyra looked at Kale, her heart full. "We've faced so much together. And yet I feel like this is only the beginning." Kale nodded. "The universe is vast, full of unknowns, but together we are ready. Nothing can break the bond we've built." Lyra felt a profound sense of peace. The journey had tested her, challenged her, and changed her. She had discovered courage, resilience, and the strength of trust. And she had discovered Kale, not just as a protector, but as someone who shared her hopes, her fears, and her heart. The lumina pulsed in harmony with the quiet night, a living symbol of the bond they had forged. Lyra knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united by trust, respect, and the courage to protect what mattered most. As they stood side by side, watching the stars, Lyra realized that the universe, with all its dangers and wonders, had given her something extraordinary. She had chosen Kale, and he had chosen her. Their partnership was no longer about duty or survival. It was about connection, trust, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. And in that moment, under the light of distant moons and countless stars, Lyra knew with certainty that the most precious treasure she had ever protected was not just the lumina. It was the bond they shared, a bond built on courage, loyalty, and love that would endure through any challenge the cosmos could bring. The stars shimmered above, distant and infinite, yet inside the sanctuary warmth, trust, and hope thrived. Lyra and Kale had faced the impossible and emerged stronger, proving that even in the vastness of space, courage and connection could overcome any threat. Together, they looked forward to the future, ready to explore the universe and protect their treasure, their bond, and each other. And so, amidst the soft glow of the lumina and the quiet serenity of the hidden sanctuary, Lyra and Kale stood together, partners, protectors, and pioneers of a new chapter in a universe full of possibilities. Their journey had ended for now, but their story, and the trust and courage they had built, would endure forever.